In the Elite Eight round at the hands of UConn, 82-54. As you can see, they're a little bit behind it. There's some of the celebration and people walking on the court in favor of UConn as they cut down the nets here in Las Vegas and are headed to the Final Four. Gonzaga season comes to an end. A lot to unpack in this game.
Yeah, it's one of those games where you felt pretty early on, all right, they're hanging with them. They can keep it in here. Do they have some second half magic? But after those first few minutes of the second half, you knew this just wasn't their night, not shooting the ball well. And on the flip side, UConn making everything tonight.
And one of the big things we talked about coming into this game was how would Gonzaga deal with a team of UConn's size. That's something that's given Gonzaga trouble this year. We saw it against Purdue at Zach Edey, and we saw it again tonight. But one of the big things was Drew Timme getting his fourth foul at the early part of the second half. Really hindered what Gonzaga usually likes to do, get him going, and it opens things for the shooters on the outside.
Yeah, you saw the size of UConn, and you knew as soon as he was out with those four fouls, the idea of coming back was slim to none. I think just the inexperience of some of the bench players, and they're unable to get this team back into the game. I didn't know what they could do at that point. They were just limited with their options.
And it doesn't help as Gonzaga shoots 33% from the field,
Not great.
2 for 20 from behind the three-point line. The number of points a game coming into tonight was held to just 54. If you get to that 87, you win this game.
Right, and we saw that kind of doom them in the Sweet 16 against Arkansas last year. Very bad shooting afternoon for them in that round, and they didn't shoot particularly well in this tournament to begin with. We never saw some of that regular season magic with what they were doing from beyond the arc. And then today, the shots just weren't going down. We saw, how many times do we see a shot go halfway down the rim and then pop back out? It's one of those nights.
It was just one of those nights, and Malachi Smith had told us after the Grand Canyon loss that sometimes they just don't fall. Tonight, it just didn't fall for Gonzaga. But with that said, a lot to be happy about and be proud about this program, at least moving forward, if you're Mark Few and company. I think at the beginning of the season, given how they lost to Tennessee in that exhibition, given how they were barely beating some of the subpar teams on their schedule, you tell him Elite Eight, he'll take it every single time.
Right. There was that point where they were 5-3 in the season, and then they got to WCC play, were struggling. They get tripped up by Loyola Marymount at home, breaking the winning streak there. Then they lose to St. Mary's in overtime, and then they had to win out from there just to get to this 3 seed, to have a good chance to get to the Sweet 16 and then the Elite Eight. It is gravy, but for these players and many of the fans, it's going to hurt right now. It's not going to feel good. Maybe a week, 2 down the road, you can reflect and say, hey, this was a heck of a ride. But it stinks because we just saw maybe the greatest Gonzaga player walk off the court for the final time, Drew Timme. This is the way that it ends for him. It sounds pretty definitive that he will not be putting that Gonzaga Bulldog uniform on again.
Yeah, we just talked to him in the locker room. Actually, we just came back from the locker room, and obviously a somber mood in there. Guys, a little kind of saw him walk out here and embrace his family for one final time. Saw him at the end of the game embrace Mark Few for one final time, and he basically, though it was emotional, and this is kind of the end of the run here, at least at Gonzaga. The big sentiment from him is that he wanted to thank Spokane and Gonzaga and that whole community for just embracing him and letting him be authentically Drew Timme every single day, whether that was the big games, whether that was cursing in the post-game or pre-game press conferences. They accepted him for who he is, and that was one of the big things he would always take away, and he felt like he's got a second home.
Drew, something that is lost in today's college athletics and pro athletics is we don't have many characters anymore. We don't have people that really are truly authentically themselves, that feel free to be themselves, and that's how he was. He was being himself the whole time, and he was fun. He was fun to watch, and he was a great teammate. And he will have his name hanging in the McCarthy Athletic Center soon enough.
Yeah.
But you might not see a guy like this for a long time.
He was synonymous with college basketball in an age where college basketball players tend to leave early. Yep. They're one and dones. He was a guy who stayed it out for the long haul. He was also very brandable. He had the mustache. People recognized him. And on top of that, he was good. He was an old school player. He was fun to talk to. He was always respectful when he talked to a lot of people, but also never afraid to show who he really is out there when he's on the court and off the court. And he will certainly be a player who a lot of Zags fans will miss, and you could put him down there as arguably the best Gonzaga player of all time. I mean, he kind of even alluded to it in the postgame.
Yeah, and I think, we do a lot talking about Drew, but there are also some other seniors.
Sure.
This is probably the end of the road for them. Rasir Bolton, this is it. He was using his last year of eligibility.
Right.
For him to come from his journey, from Penn State to Iowa State, where they win 3 games, he gets to Gonzaga, they become the #1 team in the nation, and then he makes an Elite 8 run. Pretty cool to see him get to end his career making this kind of run. And then also, we have to see what Anton Watson's going to do. He has 1 year of eligibility to use. Malachi Smith's still got a year. So this roster will be interesting to look at, in the coming months. There will be some decisions to be made, and we can divulge into that, but I think it's a little too early to start looking at the 2023-2024 season.
Yeah, at the end of the day, given where this team was in November, given the tough schedule that they played, given how it was Armageddon when they lose a WCC game to get to the Elite 8, certainly nothing to hang their heads about. A lot to look forward to in the coming years for this Gonzaga program. And with the end of Timme and this whole chapter, is turn a page and start anew and see if you can try to capture that elusive championship that the school, the Spokane community, Mark Few, and every player that's gone through there has tried to do and wants so bad.
Yeah, the job for Mark Few now is going to be to find the next guy. And to his credit, for the past 2 decades, he has been able to find that next guy. Just when you thought this All-American was leaving and how were they going to replace him, they always seem to do it. So I wouldn't worry too much as a Gonzaga fan about who's going to be the next man.
Sure. And, of course, we're going to have more coverage tomorrow on our shows at KXLY. We're going to have a full recap here from the West Regional in Las Vegas about what went wrong for Gonzaga and, of course, looking forward to next season because it's already near April and soon we're going to get a summer and soon it's going to start talking about the beginning of the preseason once again. But we just want to thank you all, the viewers at home as well, for following along all season long. Without you guys, none of this is possible. To bring you guys the best coverage possible, that's what we try to do every day. What's your biggest takeaway from the basketball season? A very unexpected up and down topsy-turvy season.
No, this was a season where I didn't expect them to have this kind of up and down. When we heard that Timme was coming back, Strother was coming back, Bolton was coming back, you're kind of like, oh, the pieces, the stars are aligning here. And then you see them struggle. They lose that Purdue game. They lose that Texas game. They get blown out in both of those games, but they rallied. I think it was just sort of the testament to this team, just how tough they were, because they could have very easily lost to TCU in that second round, ending the Sweet 16 streak. And then that UCLA game, I think that UCLA game is going to be the memory that you take of this season. How can it not be, right?
It was an epitome of how the entire season gone down early. Didn't look so good early on.
Nope.
But looked great near the end. It was an excellent season, I think, for sure. Nothing to hang their heads about. Of course, just wanted to thank the viewers at home again as well. This has been a fun ride. We're glad you're following along with us. We're going to have a lot more Zags coverage when it comes on. Also, the recruiting cycle in the summer, the NBA draft, and see what Drew Timme and even maybe Julian Strother, if he decides to dip out, what that looks like. The Zag coverage doesn't stop just because the game stops. So we'll have that all for you right here. But signing off one final time here at the NCAA tournament, I'm Julian Minensone. That's Alex Crescenti for News Now Sports. Thanks for watching.